But I'm with a woman who is an astronomer. She's a violin player. In fact, there's a clip of her on the YouTube with her performing with Ghetto Classics. I am yet to go on to the YouTube to see the Deputy EU Ambassador, Katrin Hegeman, dropping a national anthem there in a violin. Is that true, Katrin?
Yes, it is.
You enjoyed it?
I really enjoyed it very much. That was during the COVID times, and we decided we're going to do an online National Day. Or National Day sounds funny for the EU, but and so we pre-recorded everything, and it's out there on our EU channel.
When is the day?
The 9th of May.
9th of May.
Yes.
It's going to be a party.
This year it will be a little different. We're doing less of the big reception, diplomatic reception, and a little bit more of reaching out to the young audience. We're still finalizing plans, but yes, there will be something for children. There will be something for young adults at probably at Nairobi University.
Yes.
A concert maybe. So a little bit.
Katrin, put me on the list. I am young at heart. Put me on the list. Am I on the list?
I don't know. I have
Beatrice.
the ambassador to decide.
I'm looking at Beatrice with side eye. No, but seriously, when it comes to the European Union Kenya Business Forum, I want to understand what companies and institutions in general have been saying are challenges in doing business. First, let's start with EU companies and what they've highlighted with regards to getting into the Kenyan market.
Yeah. No, I think for EU companies, the main issues that they look at is it's legal certainty.
Yes.
That's one important one. And that means also financial certainty in the sense of, let's say, I buy a plot of land, I need to be certain that actually belongs to me. And I know this is an issue also for Kenyans.
Yes, we're also wondering how to do that. If you have the answer, please tell us.
So this is one of the things that investors, even if all you want to do is put a factory there, you put your building there, you need to be certain that you own that, and that you're not getting kicked out in a year, in 5 years, etc. So that bit, I think, is important for Kenya to get right, that we know that we can stay where we are, that the investment is secure. And that's, I think, the main thing that the Kenyan government, that's the argument they have to make at the business forum, is to say, we know the challenges and we are working on this. What
about permits and certifications and licenses? Has that been a challenge? Or now that we're digital, they can even do that from anywhere in Europe?
You mean for European companies here?
Yes, wanting to come here.
Yeah, I think that's something also that we're highlighting with the Kenyans, that this is something they need to do. But I think it's getting better on that front.
Are there any regulations that a company operating here has to be like partly owned by a Kenyan, or they can just be fully owned? European companies. It may not be something you have at your fingertips, but it's something to certainly figure out and see, because there are certain regulations in certain other countries about that.
Indeed. And that's, I don't know the Kenyan context, I do have to admit that, but I know that's one thing that also scares away investors.
Yes.
So that's something that we are discussing with the government, not to introduce something like that if that's in the offerings.
What about the other way around?
Yes.
Kenyan companies wanting to do business in the EU?
Yes. No, the good thing about investing in is for Kenya is there are no import duties.
Okay.
So that bit, and as I said, you invest in one market, you have all of the 27 countries. What you do see, and especially for Kenya, because you're so much in the agricultural sector and the flowers business, etc., is the phytosanitary standards is what we call it. So it's the rules around health and safety.
Yes.
And there sometimes there's been sort of differences around, why are you making these really tough standards? I would argue that Kenyans would also appreciate those tough standards for themselves.
Yes.
But it is sometimes hard for a small or medium-sized company to be able to not just have those standards, but then also prove that, do the paperwork for that. And that has been one of the areas that we've really been supporting the Kenyan companies here, so that they can meet those standards. And that, in the end, is something that's important both for the European market, but then is also an advantage for whatever you sell at home.
Yes.
And since we have such tough standards, it also means that if you do make it for the European market, you make it anywhere.
Ah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic to know. Are there costs involved in getting licenses or anything to do with access to the market once you have the certification? Because the certification, firstly, is the first step. You produce a good, you get certified, and through this certification, is it something that they can get information on the website?
Yes. So there's a website. I'll have to look what it used to be called the Trade Help Desk, and now it's called Access to Markets.
Yes.
And that actually walks you through it. I'm in this business.
Yes.
This is what I want. I want to export to this country.
Yes.
What do I have to do? So that's really, once you found a buyer, you know, you can go to that website and it will give you all of the information on how what are the standards that you have to comply with. What are the So that's the specific rules.
Yes.
We're really trying to make it transparent for companies that want to export.
So the key is going online. The key is making sure that your first step should be digital. Go online, search for
Access to Markets.
Access to Markets, which is an EU website that allows you to understand the processes and the policies and the certifications required to import into the EU. Once you've done that, then the procedure will start. But one thing that's really been interesting is the fact that remote work has been a major draw and very attractive for a lot of Kenyans, because Kenyans have found that if you're an unskilled worker, it's very hard for you as an individual, because one of our greatest resources as Kenyans is the human resource. That's one of our best resources. But it's hard for Kenyans to find work in the EU unless they're highly skilled workers. So one is remote work. Do you have any information on remote work that Kenyans could do in the EU? Because that came up. And that's not really been explored. Yeah. No,
I have one example now.
Yes.
All my other member states are going to be upset at me, but
yes.
When I was in Turkana,
yes,
I added the weekend after I had my official trip to Turkana, and there's a company there that's an institute there that's training actually young people in digital design.
Yes.
And they then set up their own companies, and they do this worldwide. And you know, if you're designing a logo for a company in Europe, you don't have to be sitting in Europe.
Yes.
You can be in Turkana. As long as you have internet, you can design it there and you can get paid. And so
quick question.
Yes.
Would this company that's sitting in Turkana have to have a European bank account or anything like that? Or I would assume not. I'm not the expert, but those are some of the things that people feel that
I don't think they do.
Yes.
I think you can be paid. Now, the question then at some point comes, where are you paying taxes, etc. But that maybe if you're sitting in Turkana, maybe more a question for the Kenyan state to answer. But in principle, you can there's a lot more that's happening in the digital world.
Yes.
And yes, you're right. There are then all these questions coming up, as I said, where are you paying taxes, which bank account has to be used. But even then, it's much less hassle than it is to actually physically have to establish a company in Europe.
So we're going to talk to Katrin Hegeman, EU Deputy Ambassador, about women-owned businesses, which is really, really important. In a bit. SpiceFM.